Hi, I'm Beth. Welcome to my channel. This class today is going to be a yoga class for resilience. So resilience is the sense that we can bounce back from adversity. When difficult, stressful things happen, either in our own lives or in the world around us, that we can find a way to go on. Another way to think of it is you might think of the idea that we might bend or vary without breaking. So in this practice, what we'll be doing is we'll be bending or going between forward bends and backward bends as an analogy or a metaphor for that idea that we can move back and forth and bend and not break. Also, you'll notice that as we go forward in forward bends, that will be a chance to go inward. Sometimes when things happen around us, we need to go inside. Yet at the same time, when we do backward bending, we'll be opening up our hearts, opening up to the difficult things we face, and allowing things to be as they are. So you will need, or at least I recommend, having a couple of yoga blocks for today's practice. I will incorporate them through most of the physical postures. If you have some sturdy books or even some really firm pillows, that could work too. Okay, let's get started. We're going to start with a cat-cow warm-up. Now this will be in an all-fours position. You can try having your hands on the blocks and see how that works for you if you've never done it that way. So we set up with the hands on the mat or on the blocks right underneath our shoulders. Knees are underneath our hips. And we start to move with breath. As you breathe in, you allow your spine to sink toward the ground. Your tailbone tips up in the back. Your head comes up. This is our cow pose. This is our back bend. Our back is arching and we're opening it up across the front of the chest. And then as you exhale, we'll reverse that. Tuck the chin and the tailbone. Lift the spine, rounding the spine toward the sky. Like an angry cat, and this is our cat shape. And then a few times back and forth between these two poses at your own pace. Striving to notice that as you round up into cat, that's your chance to gaze toward yourself, gaze inward, turn your attention inward. And then as you inhale and open forward into your back bend, your cow pose, that's a chance to be forward facing toward the outside world. A few more times, noticing that you're moving your spine in both directions. Your spine has that flexibility, that adaptability to move you through life, to move you through situations. One more time in each direction. So one more time, searching for those places that maybe don't want to move as much. So my lower back can really arch into this. I have to draw my chest a little bit toward you to really encourage my upper back to bend here. And then as I round into cat, the same thing's going to happen. I have to really encourage my low back here to move a little more. So we're going to stay rounded in cat. I'm just facing you for a moment and move back into our child's pose. Touch your toes together. Move your knees as wide apart as is comfortable for you. Now you might want to keep your knees closer together and support your body, or as much space as you need for your body. I'm going to sink my hips back toward child's pose, rounding my back. So you can start in cat, keep your back rounded as you sit your hips back. They do not have to touch your heels, and you can even put a blanket right there. And I'm going to choose to do child pose with my hands on the blocks. I'm going to walk them out a little further so I can come down in between. You can use the blocks or not, it's up to you. Keeping your back rounded as you go forward and take your attention inside for about 3 breaths. Slowly bring yourself back up to all fours. And then we'll reverse that motion into a heart opening posture, or sometimes called puppy pose. This is an expansion across the front. Again, it's a little bit of a back bend. So see how you feel the difference. Again, I'm going to use the blocks this time under my forearms. You can use the blocks or not. So instead of sending my hips back toward my heels, my hips are going to stay right over my knees. My arm's going to extend like I'm in down dog, and I'll sink down the same way, but this time there'll be an arch in my back. And you can keep this more upright and look forward, or you can allow your chest to sink more between your arms. And again, go for about 3 breaths in this shape. And as you're ready, we'll come back up to all fours once again, returning to our tabletop position. So bringing your blocks, if you're using them, right back under your hands. You might take them a little bit wider, more to the edges of your mat here. We're going to step forward into a lunge. I'll mirror you so you can step your right leg forward. So you come into a lunge and take a moment to come a little bit forward so that your knee is over your ankle. That helps create some stability in the front leg. You'll see my back knee is behind my hip so that I'm not right on the kneecap. So I have about a 90-degree angle here, but not here. My leg is sloped toward the back, which should make things a little bit more comfortable on your knee. I'm leaning forward with both hands on my blocks to start. We'll do a twist in a more closed position, again, turning into ourselves, and then we'll come upright and do it in a more open position. So keep your left hand on the block, and I just scooched my block a little bit more close to my foot. Take your right hand to your hip and then start to open, twisting from your belly button up toward the inner part of your leg. You might gaze out to the side, or you might even look a little bit over your shoulder. If you want to keep your gaze more internal, that's fine too. Take your chin a little bit toward your chest. As you breathe and hold here, feel that sense of being inward gazing, twisting into yourself. One more breath. And exhale, come out of the twist, returning back to forward. I'm going to take my one hand and then the other on the top of my thigh to help myself come upright. Now again, if that back knee is bothering you, you can scooch it back even a little further. And use your hands lightly on the front thigh to help you be more upright. So I'm really trying to be long, get a little bit of stretch in this back hip flexor, upright here. This time we'll do an open twist. So we're going to twist away from this bent knee and we're upright. So we really have more open space. This is more of an opening up to the world. You can do this with your hands on hips, hand in cactus, or hands out in a T. I think I'll go for the T today. Take a breath in, and same thing that as we exhale, you're going to revolve from your belly button up through your spine, through the area of your rib cage, that's your thoracic spine, up to your shoulders. And then maybe you add the turn of your head looking over your backhand thumb, or maybe you keep your gaze more centered or even back toward me. Any position of your head is fine, but feel this openness that we're creating in our body. Remember, we can't avoid difficult things happening in life. We can create space for them, create space for how we react to those. That's the idea of resilience. One more breath, feeling that sense of space and openness in your body. And then as you exhale, revolve back to front. Bring your hands down and we'll switch legs. So your left leg will come front. Take a moment to set up. You have about hip width between your two legs, but you may even go a little wider for a more stable base. I'm going to do that here because I know that this foot is a little less stable than the other up front for me. And then I'm going to scooch the block in a little closer to my foot. We'll start with that closed twist. Take a breath in here. And as you exhale, spin from your belly button up through your rib cage, maybe up to the shoulders and the head if that feels comfortable. Left hand on the left hip. So as you breathe here in this closed twist, you might notice more contraction. Or maybe it's even a little bit harder to breathe as your body is a little bit revolved and twisted. And yet notice that you can breathe, you can draw in air. Let's do that 1 or 2 more times. Feel the breath in your body. Maybe feel a little bit of a sense of elongation on your inhale, even as the exhale can help you with a sense of wringing out or twisting. And then on the next breath, spin back around. Once again, we'll come to upright using our hands to help. Readjusting your feet, your legs, however you need to be stable. Once you're stable, let yourself come a little bit more upright, gently pushing into your front thigh so you can be a little bit more upright. And then take your hands to whatever position you like, hips, cactus, T, some other position. Take a breath in, be really tall. And then as you exhale, start to revolve. Opening yourself up to the space around you. Maybe even feeling your arms widen to encompass all that there is. Each in-breath, you feel yourself grow a little taller. You won't move, but you can think of that idea of taller in your spine. One more breath here. All right, then as you exhale, come back around. Place your hands down, draw your knee back. We're going to come into a standing position, having the blocks on the mat in front of us. So with your blocks on the mat, I encourage you to start with them at the tall position. You may not need them. I always think it's good to have them, even if we don't wind up needing them. I'm spreading my feet about as wide as the mat. My heels are still on the mat. Luckily, I have a mat underneath my mat. And my toes are turned out at about a 45-degree angle. That's going to vary on each person. So let's just do a little check first. Bend your knees a little bit and make sure your knees are tracking over the center of your toes. If you find that your knees are collapsing inward, just turn your toes into the direction. So turn your toes more toward me so that your knees can comfortably go over the middle of the toes. So you adjust that for you. All of our bodies are different. Here we're going to go from taking up space in goddess pose to a forward fold. We're going to repeat 3 times in our goddess, and then we'll come into the forward fold. So let's start by taking up space in a big standing star position. Reach your arms out just like your legs are reaching out. Lots of space here, so we're starting with a more open position, really letting ourselves be very open. This might feel vulnerable. When we're open across the chest, it does feel vulnerable. Life makes us vulnerable. Take a deep breath in, maybe lift into that a little bit more, drawing the shoulder blades back, mini back bend on the back, maybe looking up a bit. And then as you exhale, bend both the knees and the arms, and this is goddess pose. So we sort of sit down to this little squat. You can adjust your feet or your knees as needed. Draw your elbows back. This is an open pose. It's designed to feel really powerful. Can you tune into your own strength here? Remember, we're going forward and backward. We're bending, but we're not breaking. And then inhale, reach up. Take your arms down, point your toes toward me. So now the feet are still wide, but parallel. This will be our forward fold where we go inward for a moment. Hands to hips, hinging right at the hip crease, and you can even put your fingertips there. Start to come down. Now, if you notice your back starts to round, simply soften your knees a little bit as you come down. So you can hinge down, and your hands can come to the blocks. You can stay right here like this. If you have more room, you might find that you can put your elbows or your forearms on the blocks and hang. Maybe you make a little bit of a tower and rest your head. So our only goal is to forward fold and come inward, and we'll hold that for a few breaths. Push into your feet, bend your knees, fold in the opposite direction to come back up to standing, and we'll repeat that sequence, taking our toes out, reaching our arms up. Take a breath in, a little mini back bend, opening up. As you exhale, sinking down into this powerful goddess, rearranging your arms or your legs, any place that helps you feel more powerful here. Breathe in as we hold poses for a few breaths. That actually builds strength. So maybe as you build physical strength in your body, you can feel that mental strength. That's another way to think about resilience. Let's hold here for about 2 more breaths. Maybe you even feel yourself sinking down a little bit more. You have the room to do that as we hold. Exhale, press into your feet to stand up. Turn your toes to knee again and come into any version of that forward fold that you'd like. You might slide your hands down your legs. Perhaps you can reach for the feet or your ankles or the blocks. Exhale, push into your feet, rooting down to rise your body up. And we'll repeat that one more time. Toes out, arms up, reach up, breathe in, really expansive, a little bit vulnerable, opening the heart. And then exhale, sinking down, goddess. Find the strong place for you. Notice as you're holding this, the parts that aren't working, so our legs are working, our arms are working, your shoulders don't really have to work, so they don't have to lift up. They can just be wide and open on your back. So soften anything that doesn't need to work. That includes the tips of your fingers, your head, your facial muscles. We can approach things in life with both strength and softness. That's also part of resilience. All right, I'm feeling that strength build in my legs, so let's take one more breath. Exhale, push into your feet, stand yourself tall, and one last time, turn the toes toward me, hinge from your hips into a standing forward fold. Now, if you'd like, you can take your hands on your forearms and do a sort of a ragdoll version of this. If you can reach the blocks, so see, I can do that if I put them on the higher position. You can rest your forearms or your elbows on the blocks. It's a little bit of an inversion, definitely a chance to be internal, go inside. One more breath. And this time as we come up, let's press into the feet, root, come to a halfway lift. So halfway between inside, internal, and opening to the outer world. This also gives us a chance to have the blood stop rushing to our head as we come back to upright. And then press into the feet and stand all the way up. We'll be coming back down to the floor. Help yourself down. So for this pose, we're going to do a supported locust pose. The blocks will be under our shoulders, and I'll actually show you because we'll be face down. So let me just show you about where they are. They'll be about here on your shoulders. You can have the top of the block align with the top of the shoulder, or you can have it a little further up. You'll need to adjust a little bit for you. This is an interesting pose because we are face down. It's sort of a chance to go inward, just like we did in child's pose. And yet we're actually opening, expanding across the collarbones, across the chest and sternum a bit. It's a little bit of a back bend, so it's kind of a combo. I invite you to think about that as you're in this pose. Can you think about being inside, rejuvenating and refreshing yourself inside, even as you turn your attention to the outer world? So let's set up the blocks toward the front of the mat, and they'll be about shoulder width apart wherever your shoulders are. Your body is going to go in between. As you place your shoulders, the front of your shoulders or your deltoids on the blocks, your hands will stretch back to your feet and your feet will be out long. If you want a little blanket or something to cushion your forehead, you can. So you'll be face down. I might look up a couple of times to check in with you. So stretching the legs back, coming forward, and trying to find the spot. The blocks might have to be fairly close where they can support your shoulders. Palms can be down or up. I'm going to have mine up. And then your forehead can come to rest on the ground. Now for me, having my forehead rest right on the mat, there's plenty of room for me to breathe. Right now I'm hovering it a little bit so you can hear me more clearly. And you can take a blanket right under the forehead here so that your head stays up a little bit more in line with your neck. Or you can softly let it come to the mat. And see if you can feel both of that sense of going inside. So you're really in a prone position. You're definitely in a place to go internal. And yet with our shoulders elevated in this way, we're also prepared to open and expand. Take about 3 more breaths, exploring both of those things in your own body. And as you're ready to come out, take the hands around, almost in a little bit of a push-up position. Push into your hands so you can come back and help yourself up. Our last posture before we end with some breath work is going to be open. So we go between open and closed, but we want to end with a sense of openness and expansiveness. To be resilient, we do need to again, have that sense of vulnerability and openness, and yet also establish grounding and safety. So that's what we'll try to do in this last pose. It's going to be a supported bridge. You can move one block out of the way. The other block, this is going to be your support on this low position, and where it's going to go is under your waistband, right in the area of the bottom of your tailbone. That's your sacrum. That's about where the block is going to go. Now, if this doesn't feel like enough support, you can grab the second block and use the 2 blocks together. You can also double up a blanket a few times to form a bigger rectangle, and you can use that. So I'm going to come down, and this time I'm going to lie this way just so you can see me. We're going to come down with our feet on the floor, our knees bent, and then we're going to slide the block underneath. So I'll have it where I can reach it. Coming down into our shape of our bridge pose. So feet down, head on the ground. I'm going to just scooch my body so you can see that. Scooch my body so that my hips come as comfortably close to my feet as I can get them. Then remember the block is going to be on this low position. Push into your feet to lift your hips, slide the block under, and settle in. Now the grounding comes from the hips being connected to the block, the parts of our body that are touching the mat, the backs of your shoulders, the backs of your head, the backs of your arms, or even your hands resting on your body. The expansion comes from this lift that we're getting of the block, lifting across our chest, opening our body. So this is supported bridge. You can stay in this bent knee variation, or if you want that openness to travel all the way down the front of your body, you might take your legs out. They can come all the way out straight or somewhere in between, somewhere about halfway.
That is completely up to you. It depends on how it affects your body. We want to make sure that there's no back pain. If I take my legs out, this is comfortable for me, but I need to scooch the block a little bit more toward my feet for that to be comfortable for me. So you might have to adjust. I'm going to stay with the bent knee version for today. The nice thing about using the support in this pose, when we have the support in the right place, the goal is for it to feel effortless. We are effortlessly supporting and grounding our body, and yet establishing an opening. And then we feel the breath. You might actually even be able to see my torso, my ribs rise and fall with my breath. And as I said, you can place your hands there. Sometimes that connection helps us feel that you are breathing. No matter what is happening, you're still breathing. You're still moving. You're still going forward. Let's stay here just a bit longer. Last mindful breath. Take your attention to your inhale. Breathe in. Feel the exhale as you release all of that air. And putting a little weight into your feet once again. Press into your feet to remove the block out from under you. Settle your hips back down. Take a breath in. Roll to one side. I'm going to roll toward you. Help yourself come up to a seated position. And we're going to finish with a little bit of breathing and a mantra meditation. I'm going to take my 2 blocks again, and I'm going to make a little platform, and that's where I'm going to sit. It's just a little bit more comfortable for me. So I like sitting on this little platform because it helps me elevate my hips higher than my knees. I'm actually scooching right to the edge and then letting my knees come open. Cross-legged is comfortable for me. If it's not comfortable for you, find a different seated position. That includes seated in a chair. A chair is absolutely fine, and if that's what works for you, that's what works for you. So we're going to finish with a mudra, which is a hand gesture, a mantra, which is something that you say to yourself in your head, and then we're going to pair that with our breathing. So the mudra, and I'm not going to mirror this because left-right is important. This is called Shiva Linga Mudra, and it's actually a mudra for resilience. It resembles a mortar and a pestle. So your left hand is going to be a little cupped. This is going to be your mortar. Your right hand makes a loose fist with the thumb pointed up. That connects to your left. Now, you don't have to do the mudra if that doesn't connect with you or doesn't resonate with you. Just keep your hands in a rested place on your lap. So that's the mudra. I'll join you in that in a moment. The mantra that we're going to do is I will keep going. So the idea of this resilience is we will keep going. Things will happen and I will keep going. Things will beat me down or be difficult or be challenging and I will keep going. And then the breathing, this is where we're going to connect the mantra with the breathing, is we'll say the I will on the inhale, and then the keep going is going to be slower so that we can extend the exhale. Extending the exhale helps activate our sympathetic nervous system, our parasympathetic nervous system rather, our PNS. That is the part where we rest, we shut down, or not shut down, but really slow down. Shutting down is more when we activate and we're in that fight, flight, freeze, or flock mode where we're revved up. And sometimes in the freeze part of that can be a shutdown. The
rest and digest mode is different from that. That's where it's more of a regroup mode, if that makes sense. So I'm going to say the mantra out loud. You can say it in your head. You can hold the mudra or not. If you are holding the mudra, you also have the option of slowly revolving the wrist or revolving the fist in the bottom hand, and that's like your pestle. All right, so we'll do this a little bit. I'm going to hold my hands still just for simplicity's sake. Again, we'll breathe in on the I will, and then I'll say the keep going out a little slower so we can do a longer extended exhale. If the mantra doesn't work for you, simply concentrate on breathe in, natural breath in, longer extended exhale. I think you'll get the sense of it once we start. Okay, ready to breathe in? I will keep going. I will keep going. I will keep going. I will keep going. And continue as we continue with that, and you can continue saying that in your head. Maybe you feel a little pause, just like I was doing there. So we start to slow down even how we're saying the words. I will pause. Keep going. Pause. I will pause. Keep going. Pause. I will pause. Keep going. Pause. And continue. I'm going to shut my eyes and repeat a few times in my own head, and I'll do the hand motion. You can do the same if you'd like. A few more times together as you circle your hand. If you're doing that, you feel the sense of this is the keep going, right? You might also think about this as grinding out any obstacles in your way or overcoming them. So a few more inhales and exhales. I will keep going. I will keep going. I will keep going. Release the mudra. Let's once more take a natural inhale and then slowly release your exhale as much as you can comfortably slow it down. Breathe in. Long exhale. That is today's practice. I hope that it did help you to find a sense of strength, a sign of the ability to be resilient, to move forward, to keep going, because we will face challenges and obstacles in life. We all will. If you like this, please give me a thumbs up down below. I take requests, so if there's something else you want to see or you want to see more like this, comment. I will definitely respond. If you want to check out some other things I have to offer, I have mindfulness-based meditations that are like what we did in the end. You can look at those up here or look at some of the other practices I have to offer. Thank you so much for joining me, and have a good rest of your day.